Goblin. While the creature in the CCTV footage has been called a goblin or gnome, it's not certain what we're seeing. This outside surveillance camera caught the small creature walking up and walking off camera to not return. It seems to walk on two legs like a human, but has very jagged movements as if it's hurt. There also appears to be what could be a mane, or for paranormal enthusiasts, maybe some sort of clothing. The creature does have a tail that looks like it matches the mane-like region though. Some viewers have even claimed that they see small horns on top of the creature. Regardless of what you believe this is, it's unlike most animals we've seen, especially in residential areas. Elevator ghost. This terrifying video was posted in 2009 and is timestamped from 2008. It's not certain where this video is from, but it's clearly CCTV footage from the elevators, halls, and stairwells of some kind of office building. In the bottom right corner, we see the surveillance from inside an elevator. Two office employees are just casually chatting as they ride to their destination. Everything seems normal until the doors open and the two men go to exit. As the man on the left, who had been leaning against the wall, lifts up and walks out, a figure seems to appear out of nowhere. There was nowhere this figure could have been hiding or standing, as the man was clearly touching the wall while leaning against it. The apparition resembles an elderly, decrepit man or woman who moves slowly towards the door. It even appears to walk outward, although it isn't certain. The ghost never looks up towards the camera and is never seen on the other screens. Creepy intruder. In June 2015, a mother of two set up a CCTV camera above her back door. For several days, she had found scratches around the doorknob and hinge of the door. What she originally thought was some type of animal ended up being something every mother fears. One morning, she awoke to find that her back gate had been left open and a blade of some sort had been fashioned into a hook and used near the door lock. She reviewed the CCTV footage to find a terrifying man covering his face with a hoodie and carrying a torch. He shined the torch into the kitchen window to assure no one was awake and then proceeded to try and pry the door open. As if seeing something like this isn't scary enough, realizing that it's been going on for days is probably a much worse feeling. Lisa, the mother involved, explained that as she watched the footage, she shook uncontrollably. Her children were asleep upstairs and the thought of someone breaking in for what little she had terrified her. After the incident, police patrolled the neighborhood in hopes of finding the potential robber, but further information on the case was never released. Beijing tiger attack. This video comes from a security camera on the grounds of Beijing's Beijing Wildlife Park. In mid-July, a husband, his wife, and her mother were driving through the park on a day out. Things took a dark turn when the husband and wife got into an argument and the wife exited the vehicle to get away from the situation. She came around to the driver's side, possibly to speak with her husband more, and mere seconds later a large tiger grabs her by the legs and drags her away. Her husband immediately chases after them. The woman's mother also exits the vehicle and a wildlife jeep can be seen driving up, probably to help in this tragedy. The woman's mother was mauled by the tiger and died on the scene, and she was badly injured and rushed to a local hospital. The park commented that they do allow visitors to drive their own cars through the park, but they are absolutely prohibited from exiting their vehicles. While this story is tragic and terrifying, it serves as a good reminder to follow the rules when it comes to wildlife. Woman attacked by ghost. This footage allegedly comes from the reception hall of a haunted hotel, although the exact name or location of the hotel is not published. The woman seated in the room seems to be waiting for someone as she's just hanging out and fiddling with her cell phone. As the woman sits in silence, a chair behind her moves slightly and startles her. She looks behind her, probably expecting to see a person. When she realizes that there's no one in the room, she returns to messing with her phone, although she does seem on edge. The chair moves again, scaring her to the point that she literally sits at the edge of her seat and makes a phone call. Uncertain who she's calling, maybe just someone to distract her from the tension in the room. While on the phone, the chair to the left of her lunges forward and she jumps out of her seat and falls down a few feet away. She stands up and tries to run out of the room, but a table is thrown which trips her, and she is then attacked by the poltergeist. Her hair is pulled again and she is thrown across the room before tripping again and hitting her head on the tile flooring. She appears to be unconscious as a few pieces of furniture continue to move by themselves in the room. Without knowing the exact location of this, we can't know if this was a common occurrence, and while the original video claims that this woman died from a head injury, there's no proof, and she could have likely walked away from this with nothing more than emotional scarring. Bryan Schaffer. It is not uncommon for college students to visit bars. Most students get together on weekends or after classes to have a few drinks and unwind or even discuss school. However, it is very uncommon for a student to disappear in a bar. The story of Bryan Schaffer starts out as your everyday college student's visit to a bar and turns into something out of a sci-fi murder mystery. Schaffer planned a spring break getaway with his longtime girlfriend Alexis Wagner. He had purchased a hotel room in Miami and his friends claimed he planned to propose. However, about 3 days before the couple were set to head out on their romantic vacation, Bryan vanished. He and his friends went to a live music bar called the Ugly Tuna. They had several drinks and shots. 2 of his friends went to the bathroom and when they returned, Bryan was gone. They asked around but no one had valid information. His friends assumed he just left early and no one noticed, so they also left. When investigators were alerted because family and friends had still yet to hear from Bryan, they found out he had not left the bar. He was seen entering the bar with friends on camera, and he was seen standing outside the entrance before going back in and never being seen again.
They stepped on the escalator with Bryan in front. As they went up the escalator, Bryan turned to look back at Meredith and Clint, and they were laughing and joking and obviously having a good time. This is the area where Bryan was last seen. To my right, he was seen on camera speaking with 2 young ladies that he'd met inside the bar. After speaking with the young ladies, he turned and walked back into the bar, at which time we lost him on camera.
No cameras found Bryan exiting the bar or the complex which the bar was located inside. There are, of course, other explanations for him not being seen on camera, but he was never seen again, and some claim that even if he escaped the cameras at the complex, he would have been caught on nearby street and parking lot cameras at least. Bryan Schaffer was never heard from or seen again. His family has faith that he will return home someday, as there was never a body or signs of struggle discovered. However, there has been very little evidence found since his disappearance in 2006. Jennifer Kesse. This young 24-year-old woman went missing in January of 2006. She was last seen the night before her disappearance, leaving her place of employment. Before vanishing, she had made casual phone calls to family and friends, as she had just returned home from a vacation. Her last phone call was to her boyfriend around 10 p.m. According to him, she seemed normal and not in any danger. The next morning, she failed to arrive to work or answer her phone for several hours. Her manager called her parents to alert them that they had not heard from her. Jennifer's parents immediately drove 2 hours to Jennifer's condo to find that she had been home that morning, but there were no sign of forced entry or struggle. Jennifer's family spent the day searching for their daughter and looking for any evidence of a struggle. Investigators got involved, and 2 days later an unidentified person was seen by an apartment surveillance system parking Jennifer's car and leaving it. The car was picked up by local police and sent to a crime lab. The person seen leaving the car became the strongest lead in the case, which isn't good news considering his face can't be seen on the footage. The CCTV camera that caught him up close was the type that takes snapshots every few seconds, rather than recording video footage. In every single frame, his face is hidden by a bar or fencing. This piece of evidence does, however, confirm that foul play was involved in her disappearance. Numerous valuables left in Jennifer's car led investigators to believe that robbery was not the motive of this crime. A search dog tracked a scent from Jennifer's car back to her condo, which makes it seem like either she or the suspect returned to the condo after the car was dropped off. The FBI and NASA assisted in the investigation by enhancing the images and identifying possible details about the person's identity. The only useful facts determined were that the suspect was a young male about 5'3". Jennifer's condo had been undergoing renovations, which led construction workers to be on site nearly 24/7. She had complained to family that the workers would harass and catcall her, but further investigation of the construction workers turned up no new evidence, and none of the men seemed to match the body type of the person who dropped the car. More importantly, these men were illegal immigrants, and if one had quit work between the time of her disappearance and the time of the investigation, there would be little to no way of tracking them down. Jennifer has been missing with no new evidence in her case for over 10 years now. Journalists that have reviewed the CCTV footage name this man the luckiest person of interest ever. Chip Chan. This story has been shared several times throughout the years, and it never becomes any less disturbing. Considering that this is still an ongoing viral internet sensation is even more unsettling. Chip Chan is a woman who broadcasts herself live from her home via CCTV cameras and webcams. The first person to discover her thought she was dead, as she laid perfectly still in an uncomfortable position for hours. He took the story to 4chan to get help in deciding if she was really dead, and if so, how she died. Tons of users flocked to her broadcast and began putting clues of her death together before she rose up to life and hid behind signs she had made. Through years of broadcast, Tumblr posts, and her signs, her addicted viewers have learned a few things about her. She lives in South Korea. When she does leave her home, which is rarely, she wears a disguise. She sleeps up to 12 or more hours a day, usually inside a filing cabinet, and while she spends most of her waking hours on the internet, she seems to be suffering from depression as she rarely smiles and often cries. According to her signs, she claimed that she had been held against her will for 16 years by someone she calls P. She claims that P is a corrupt officer that has planted a chip in her ankle which tracks her and her health. Occasionally, Chip Chan's cameras will go off for up to several hours, which is apparently when P comes to visit according to her blog, linked below. Some of her signs read, "Don't get tricked, don't get fooled, early every morning. If someone comes that paralyzes the person, I can't be stopped. The stalker used this skill from 2006. I have slept for 20 hours every day since then. I do not know what happened while I sleep. I have been always afraid of sleeping." These are of course rough translations. When she leaves her home, she has a setup of boxes that cover her doorway as she exits. When she sleeps, her lights will flicker on and off by themselves as if controlled by an outside source. A huge plot hole with Chip Chan's story is that she disables the cameras when P arrives, and won't release his name or officer rank even though she clearly wants to be helped. When emailing Chip Chan, an auto-response of photos of police officers is sent. Most of the photos are blurry and seem to have been taken by Chip Chan. When local authorities were contacted regarding Chip Chan, they said she is a mentally ill woman who would often protest against police forces in China Central Television. It's very likely that this woman is just suffering from a severe form of paranoid schizophrenia, but there are plenty of viewers that believe her story and are committed to helping her. It's uncertain what the creepiest part of this is. Is it Chip Chan, the mentally ill or possibly kidnapped woman? Or is it the millions of viewers obsessed with watching her doing nothing but sleep and cry?